Right, here we're going to look at waterfalls, and you can see just from these 4 photos there's a whole variety of sizes and shapes of waterfall. Now this doesn't look much like a waterfall at the moment. As you can see, I've pre-prepared a very small area of sky with ultramarine blue and toned it down to white and a touch of yellow ochre here. The rest of it has been covered in a very strong dark mixture of phthalo blue and raw umber. That's these 2 colours here. For this picture we'll be using 4 colours plus the white. We've got just a touch of permanent rose, we've got the phthalo blue, we've got cadmium yellow, and we've got the raw umber. So what I'm going to do now is just to put in some very rough background tree colours, add a little bit of white to that. So I'm just going to do that just to get us started. Right, now you can see that I've just put in 2 or 3 layers of green paint to represent the trees up beyond the top of the waterfall. What I'm just going to do is just now add a little bit of light colour, exactly the same as you see me do in the trees DVD, where we're just putting a little bit of highlight on, like that. And I'm bringing that down and over here. Right, now you can see I've put in an outline of the rocks. At this stage, as you can also see, they're in a fairly rough state. They're certainly far from finished. And that's because once we put the water into the waterfall, we'll find inevitably as you bring the brush strokes down that you're going to go over the rocks. So there's really no point in doing any fine detail at the moment. Now, at this area here, what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to have a big rock sticking out at the top of the waterfall like that. The sun we're going to have is coming basically from over the top left, so any light is going to be on this side of the rock. And then what I'm going to do is to let that dry off completely. I'm going to bring the trees down here a little bit and a little bit down here, and then we'll come back once that's done and dried, and we'll have the fun bit of actually painting in the waterfall itself. Right, now you can see I've just about done as much stabbing in, creating these instant trees as I think I'm going to do for now, because I'll probably end up having to go back later on and just top these up. But now what we're going to do is the fun bit, what this lesson's all about, and that's putting the waterfall in. So we're going to get some white paint to start with, but we're going to mix it with a fair amount of phthalo blue. I'm going to use this fan brush to put it on, but I'm not going to use it to mix the paint because it's going to make things a bit too messy. And if we take a good big dollop of the white, you can see that gives a lovely turquoise blue. Right, now you can see I've got a good layer of paint on both sides of the brush and on all the bristles, but only about 1/3 of the way down. I don't want paint so thick on the brush that it's pushed up into the ferrule. And to create the waterfall effect, all that we're going to do is imagine that the river's coming along from behind these trees and then getting to the end and dropping down. So it's that sort of effect. It's like an upside down L that you're going to paint. So coming along the river and down like that, along the river and down like that. Right, now just for a bit of variety, I've got some stronger darker blue, and I've just changed to the scrappy bristle brush, and you can see I'm just dragging even darker blue down here, which will create even further interest. Okay, I've added a bit more white, and it's still quite a pale blue, but you can see it appears much whiter than what's gone before, what's underneath. All the time I'm adding more white and lightening it off, but you can still see how much of a blue colour that is. And don't be afraid to come from the other direction, as if the water sort of gone past the rocks here and then got forced back, as often happens, like that. So you get the water, as in this case, coming from 2 directions. Right, now I'm going to just carry on like this, adding several layers till I think I'm satisfied with the overall effect. Okay, I'm using the number 1 or number 2 round brush now, and I've used a variety of brushes, and that gives us some slightly different effects. I perhaps wouldn't use as many as I've used normally, but it's really just to show you that you can use all sorts of different brushes. Right, I've cleaned the brush and I've now taken on pretty well pure white, quite thick. I'm using the round brush because it happens to be in my hand, but if you're more comfortable with a flat brush or the fan brush, experiment, see what works best for you. And what I'm doing now, you can see I'm putting these thick layers of white, pure white paint all the time, imagining that this waterfall is going to be having some highlights and high spots and some areas that's in shadow. So try and imagine where the high spots will be. Right, I'm just going to finish off putting the highlights on the waterfall here, and then I'm going to tidy up some of the rocks and stones near the top. Right, now you can see I've just developed these trees back over the waterfall now, and now I'm just going to have a look at developing these rocks. What we're going to do, I'm just mixing the phthalo blue with a little bit of that raw umber. Okay, and that's going to give us the dark rock. Right, the next thing I'm going to do is this top rock here is to straighten that up, paint that back in across the waterfall so it's in front of the waterfall. The same with these rocks just here. The lower ones I'm going to leave because they're going to be covered in mist anyway in a minute, and we'll see how that's done when I come back. Okay, I've tidied up some of these rocks, as you can see. A lot of them are still going to be obscured when we put the mist back in, but we're now starting to put the foam at the bottom of the waterfall, which is around about here, and from foam, which will be sort of stabbed on with this brush and fairly thick white paint, we're then going to blend that out. Again, I'm going to go into this medium blue paint with a little bit of white added, and I'm starting off, that's, you see how much paint is on at first, you just end up with blobs of paint, and as you start stabbing on, it very, very quickly starts to spread out and become a little bit more blended. Okay, I'm going to increasingly start going into paler blue now. It's still pale blue. Okay, now you can see I'm putting on pretty light highlights. Again, this isn't absolutely pure 100% titanium white, and you can see the sort of misty effect that we've created on and around this rock really emphasizes the water almost exploding across it as it hits it. Now for the next area, what we're going to just add in is a little bit of calm, and I'm really going to use no more than the various densities of phthalo blue that I've used previously elsewhere in the waterfall, and I'm just going to make sure this time that the brush strokes are completely horizontal. I'm going to come back into that and just add that spray over the bottom area of the water, but for now I just want to give us that effect of calm water. Okay, I've added some of the foam just at the bottom part of the pool here, just to straighten things out slightly. I'm now just going to take out some of that pure white that I've put on the brush, and one little brushful like this is going to give us all the misty effect that we're ever going to need. That's fine. Now I'm going to finish off by just tidying up these two rocks here to bring them in front of the pool, and this rock here just to cover over these little areas here. A little hint of dark reflection underneath these foreground rocks as they sink beneath the pool, and really one or two added little speckles with the palette knife on here, and that'll be done. So let's do that now, and then we're finished. Okay, that's just about it now. We could go on playing around with the waterfall, I could play around with the water in the foreground, but I think we're just about there. All that remains me to do is just a couple of little sparkles highlights, if you like, of the light bouncing off the water. I'm just going to run that along that area there, just as an impression of the water running against those rocks. Okay, we've put in a few little highlights with the edge of the palette knife and a little bit of paint on it, and basically I've done nothing more than actually scrape off the paint. So there we are. There is a waterfall, and it doesn't matter whether that's 6 inches deep or as big as the Niagara. The principles of producing a waterfall are exactly the same regardless of the scale. Go and have a go at yourself and enjoy it.